Welcome back to the Self-Funded Sketchbook. Today, we're going to dig into something that's actually hard to say, the average first month of reported claims. This is a phenomenon inside of renewals that I don't think enough people talk about. My friends at Tokyo Marine HCC are actually the ones that introduced me to this concept. So I'm excited to teach you average first month of reported claims. Here we go. Okay, so I know it's a mouthful. The average first month of reported claims. What the heck does that mean and why should I care about it? Well, this idea I actually got from reviewing the HCC, the Tokyo Marine HCC 2024 stop loss report. We've made a video. I can link that video in this particular video if you want to go watch it. But they introduced me to this idea of average first month of reported claims. If you don't know Tokyo Marine, they're the second largest direct writer of stop loss in the country. They have somewhere in the neighborhood of a $2 billion block of business. And I bring that up just to say this is credible information coming from one of the top carriers in the industry. And so what average first month of reported claims does is it looks at when they first get a specific stop loss claim on average for all their policies. So let's say they have 5,000 policies in force, somewhere around there. They're going to look at all 5,000 of those policies and say, on average, when is the first time we were notified of a specific stop loss claim that needed to be reimbursed? And so I've broken this out in the chunks that they give in that particular report as well. And it's actually pretty eye-opening when you dig into this data. And so they're looking at monthly cohorts, the 1st to 4th month, the 5th to 8th, 9th to 12th, 13th to 16th, and after the 17th month. And so if you look at just the basic, only 9% of stop loss policies have a claim within the first 4 months. Another 27% have it between month 5 and month 8. And then the majority of stop loss claims actually first happen, so meaning the first claim on that policy happens between the 9th and 12th month. And so I broke this apart in the chunks. If you look at in total, 64% of all stop loss policies they have in force did not have a specific stop loss claim until the 9th month or later. Why is that? Well, obviously, throughout a policy period, claims start to accumulate or what's known as mature, and so you're more likely to have claims rise over the specific stop loss deductible later in the plan year. But for me, the real eye-opening stat is the fact that most of them don't happen. 2/3 of the policies they have don't get a claim until after month 9. Why should you care? Well, what's happening in month 9? You're going through a renewal. Chances are with 7, 8, maybe 9 months of data, that carrier is issuing a renewal. And they're issuing a renewal on a policy that on average isn't likely to have a stop loss claim yet. And so you might look at it as an employer and say, well, why am I getting an increase if I don't have any claims? Well, the reality is the stop loss carrier knows most of those claims are going to happen later on in the plan year and often happen after they've already issued and locked in a renewal. And so this answers the question, why am I getting a 14 or 18% increase, yet my client has no claims? The reality is the stop loss carrier knows that policy is probably going to have claims after they've locked in the renewal. So not only do they have to factor in their potential loss ratios for that particular year, they also have to price forward for another 12 months with trend and leverage trend and all those things to say, what do we think it's going to cost and how should we price this policy the following year as well? And so it becomes a really delicate game of cat and mouse for stop loss carriers to price renewals at a level they can retain the groups they want to retain, but also know that they have to collect enough premium in order to prevent future losses and have a positive or profitable book of business. So renewals will be factoring in this information. You're going to have the history of the group, of course. You're going to have leverage trend, which I just explained in a previous video. And you'll have also something called percent to manual that will come into play in renewals, and I'll explain the manual in the next video. I think before we jump on this, average first month of claims, you need to understand this. The craziest thing to me is that on 20% of their policies, so these bottom half right here, 20% of their policies don't have a stop loss claim filed until after the 12-month period of that policy. And so they're getting notice after they've already locked in the renewal and that policy is still running out. they're getting notice of the first claim. And so 20% of those policies didn't happen until after the 12th month. And so you should understand this. It doesn't mean you have to accept the renewal that the carrier has tabled, but you should understand in aggregate and over time, the majority of claims are going to happen after you're negotiating a renewal on behalf of your client. And so average first month of reported claims is something that you should know. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks, guys.